How to truly support a dying loved one. Imagine this. You're sitting beside someone you deeply love as they take their final breaths. Their eyes grow distant, their breathing shallow, and in that moment, you feel utterly helpless. What do you say? What should you do? How can you possibly help when faced with the most profound transition a human being will ever make? The journey from life to death remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Yet in our modern world, we've become increasingly disconnected from this natural process, leaving us unprepared for this inevitable moment. Throughout human existence, cultures have developed profound practices for supporting the dying. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, rituals emerged to guide both the dying and those left behind. But perhaps no tradition has developed as sophisticated an understanding of death as Buddhism has over its 2,600-year history. Within Buddhist philosophy, death isn't seen as an ending, but rather a transition, a doorway through which consciousness passes on its continuous journey. The question isn't whether we can prevent death, but whether we can transform this inevitable passage into a sacred opportunity for liberation. This understanding isn't merely philosophical, it's intensely practical. When someone is actively dying, our actions, words, and even thoughts can profoundly influence their experience and what follows. Yet, in our grief and attachment, we often do exactly what Buddhist wisdom cautions against. We cry at their bedside, we cling to their hand, we flood them with our emotions, all while their consciousness requires stillness, clarity, and space for its most important journey. The paradox is this: the very things we believe show our love may actually create obstacles for the person we're trying to help. To understand why these traditional Buddhist practices matter, we must first understand the process of dying itself, not just the physical cessation of organs, but the subtle dissolution of consciousness as taught in Vajrayana Buddhism. Let's explore how consciousness transitions at death, and more importantly, how we can help someone navigate this profound passage with wisdom, compassion, and skillful means. Imagine the human mind as a vast river flowing through countless channels in the body. According to Buddhist Tantra, there are 72,000 subtle energy channels converging into chakras throughout our system. During our lifetime, consciousness flows through these channels, creating our sensory experiences, thoughts, and emotions. But what happens when we die? This is where Buddhist understanding offers remarkable insight that modern medicine is only beginning to appreciate. Death isn't instantaneous. It's a process of dissolution. First, the 5 cognitive powers begin to dissolve one by one. Sight fades, hearing diminishes, smell disappears, taste recedes, and physical sensation numbs. Yet remarkably, even as these senses fade, consciousness remains. The subtle mind continues functioning long after clinical death has been pronounced. This isn't mystical speculation. Hospice workers regularly report that seemingly unconscious patients respond to voices, music, and presence, even when unresponsive by medical standards. The winds or energies that support consciousness gradually withdraw from the extremities, gathering toward the central channel of the body. For ordinary people, this process happens automatically and without awareness. But for those trained in meditation practices, particularly in the advanced techniques of Tibetan Buddhism, this gathering of energies becomes an opportunity for profound spiritual realization. This explains why accomplished meditation masters can remain in meditation for days or even weeks after clinical death, their bodies showing no signs of decomposition despite medical verification of no heartbeat or respiration. The key insight is this: at death, consciousness doesn't immediately vanish. It goes through stages of increasing subtlety. Each stage represents an opportunity for liberation if recognized. This is why in Buddhist traditions, the environment around a dying person becomes critically important. Every sound, touch, and emotional energy can either help or hinder this delicate process of conscious dying. So what does this mean for those of us sitting beside someone we love as they approach death? How can we truly help, rather than hinder, this sacred passage? The traditional approach might seem counterintuitive to modern sensibilities, yet it emerges from thousands of years of close observation and practice. When someone is actively dying, the greatest act of love isn't to cling, but to create space. First and foremost, Buddhist wisdom teaches us to maintain a peaceful environment. Loud crying, emotional displays, and physical interventions that aren't medically necessary can disturb the dying person's consciousness as it naturally withdraws. Instead of clutching their hand and begging them not to leave, sit quietly nearby. Instead of projecting your fear and grief, generate thoughts of loving kindness. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means channeling your love in ways that actually benefit the dying person, rather than burdening them with your attachment. For Buddhists, this means gently reciting the names of Buddhas, teachers, or sacred mantras that were meaningful to the person during life. If they practiced with a particular meditation deity or Buddha, remind them of their practice. If they followed another spiritual tradition, recitations from their own faith can provide similar support. The goal isn't to convert anyone in their final moments, but to provide familiar spiritual anchors as consciousness navigates unfamiliar territory. Remarkably, advanced practitioners can predict their own death with astonishing accuracy. Throughout Buddhist history, masters have left precise instructions about when and where they would die, and even details about their future rebirth. Young children recognized as reincarnations often display uncanny knowledge of their previous lives, recalling names of students, recognizing belongings, and even speaking in ways characteristic of the deceased master. These documented cases suggest consciousness continues its journey with far more continuity than materialist views would suggest. After physical death occurs, the subtle consciousness may remain connected to the body for a period. Buddhist tradition teaches that for accomplished meditators, this connection can last for days as they rest in profound meditation states. For ordinary practitioners, it may be shorter but still significant. This is why Buddhist traditions advise against immediately moving or disturbing the body. If possible, allow the body to rest undisturbed while continuing peaceful recitations nearby. When the subtle consciousness finally departs, tradition teaches it can exit through different openings in the body, with the crown of the head being most auspicious. This is why in Buddhist practices, a teacher or practitioner might place something sacred on the deceased's head, not as superstition, but as a final act of spiritual guidance, drawing consciousness upward toward fortunate rebirth realms. But here's the paradox that challenges our understanding. While these practices matter greatly, they matter most when established during life, not hastily applied at death. The greatest gift we can offer someone isn't just a peaceful death, but a life lived with spiritual awareness that prepares them for this transition. If someone practiced meditation, lived ethically, and developed insight during life, these qualities naturally manifest at death. The continuity of mind doesn't suddenly change. It deepens and reveals its true nature. So what does this mean for us, the living? How can we navigate death, both our own inevitable passing and that of those we love, with greater wisdom? The answer lies in understanding power differently, not as control over death, which is impossible, but as mastery of our relationship with impermanence. Buddhist wisdom teaches that death isn't a failure or an enemy to be conquered, but a teacher that can awaken us to the preciousness of each moment. The greatest misunderstanding about death in contemporary society is that it represents an ending, the cessation of everything a person has been. Buddhism offers a profoundly different view. Death is a transition, not an annihilation. Consciousness continues its journey, shaped by the karma, actions, accumulated during life. This understanding transforms how we approach both living and dying. If death isn't the end but a doorway, then how we walk through that doorway matters immensely. According to Buddhist teachings, after death, consciousness enters what's called the Bardo state. an intermediate realm between death and rebirth lasting up to 49 days. During this period, the deceased may visit familiar places and loved ones before taking rebirth according to their karma. This is why traditional practices include 49 days of dedicated prayers and offerings for the deceased. These aren't merely commemorative. They're practical spiritual support for a consciousness navigating the between state. For those left behind, Buddhist wisdom offers equally practical guidance. Let go. This doesn't mean forgetting the person or ceasing to love them. It means releasing attachment that might keep their consciousness bound to this realm out of concern for you. If you've had unresolved conflicts, forgive. If you have regrets about what was or wasn't said, resolve them in your heart. If your grief is overwhelming, transform it into prayers and positive actions that benefit the deceased. Every single day for 49 days, family members can gather and let go of what has happened. Let go and carry on life from now. You recite Om 1,000 times every single night for 49 days and dedicate it for them. You can visualize the person that has passed away and visualize from the Buddha, from Shakyamuni or Tompa or whatever Buddha you're focusing on. Lights going to this person and telling them to enter the light, to continue their journey. This practice isn't about clinging to the deceased, but helping them continue their journey unencumbered by worldly attachments. Remember this crucial truth. Whatever disagreements, struggles, or conflicts existed during life lose their significance after death. Arguments about money, property, relationships, all these worldly concerns dissolve in the face of the ultimate reality. The only thing that matters is helping the consciousness move forward positively on its journey. This is why letting go becomes the greatest gift you can offer, not because you didn't love enough, but precisely because your love transcends attachment. The most powerful examples come from spiritual communities where these practices are lived rather than merely discussed. When a practitioner dies near their spiritual teacher, it's considered especially auspicious because the teacher can provide direct guidance during this critical transition. There are documented cases of practitioners dying peacefully in meditation posture, with their heads in their teacher's lap, and later being recognized in new incarnations with remarkable continuity of consciousness. But what about those without such spiritual contexts? The principles remain applicable regardless of tradition. Creating peaceful environments, avoiding excessive emotional displays that might disturb the dying person, speaking gently of spiritual matters meaningful to them, and helping resolve any lingering concerns. These approaches benefit anyone, regardless of their faith tradition. After death, practical rituals provide structure for grief while benefiting the deceased. In Buddhist traditions, memorial ceremonies aren't just for the living, they generate merit dedicated to the deceased person's positive rebirth. Creating images, statues or stupas consecrated with the deceased's remains provides ongoing sources of blessing. Each prayer offered at these sacred objects continues benefiting their consciousness long after death. Traditional Buddhist practices also include using a portion of the deceased's possessions for spiritual purposes, offering to monasteries, sponsoring prayers, creating sacred objects, or helping those in need. These actions transform material attachments into spiritual merit that follows consciousness beyond death. Rather than keeping possessions in untouched shrines, transforming them into causes for spiritual benefit honors the person's journey more profoundly. So what does this all mean for us, here and now? How do we integrate these ancient wisdom teachings into our modern understanding of death and dying? The answer isn't about blindly adopting ritual practices, but recognizing the profound psychological and spiritual insights they contain. Whether you're Buddhist or not, these principles reflect universal human needs at the threshold between worlds, creating peaceful environments for the dying, speaking gently and meaningfully rather than projecting our fears, allowing spaciousness rather than clinging, and transforming grief into positive dedication. These approaches honor the profound transition of consciousness that death represents. They allow us to support our loved ones not just during their lives, but through their most important journey. In essence, the Buddhist approach to death teaches us that our final act of love for someone isn't clutching them in our grief, but opening our hands in blessing as they depart. It's releasing them into the natural flow of consciousness with our prayers, our goodwill, and our sincere wish for their well-being beyond the boundaries of this life. This isn't abandonment. It's the ultimate respect for the continuity of consciousness on its eternal journey. The Buddhist teachings remind us that death isn't the opposite of life. It's part of life's continuous unfolding. By understanding the process deeply, we transform fear into wisdom, grief into compassionate action, and confusion into clear presence. In doing so, we offer our dying loved ones the greatest gift, not just a good death, but passage into whatever lies beyond with our blessing, our love, and our profound respect for their continuing journey.